Chapter 4, Section 8, Division of Polynomials. So in this whole entire chapter we have evaluated, combined like terms, talked about descending order, talked about classification and degree, addition, subtraction, and multiplication. And that brings us to division of polynomials. So we start out by doing monomial divided by a monomial, and this is set up in fractional form because the fraction bar is just division. And so what we're going to do is we're going to divide coefficient by coefficient, so 20 divided by 5 is going to be 4. Now, when you divide powers with like bases, you subtract those exponents, and it's always top minus bottom. So, x to the third divided by x to the first is going to be x to the second. Okay, letter B. Negative 28 divided by 4 is going to be negative 7. X to the 14th divided by x to the third is going to be x to the 11th. We're subtracting those exponents, top minus bottom. Now, what if your coefficients won't divide out? That's okay. Just bring them over. And then x to the 5th divided by x to the first is going to be x to the 4th on top. And there's something that I want to show you here. So on top I have x, I'm going to expand this out, times x times x times x times x over 4x. Well, you know that anything divided by itself goes to 1. And so you're left with x to the 4th on top. And that's how you get that answer. Okay, so if it's not written as a fractional problem, such as letter A, and you're dividing by a monomial, and that's key. If you are dividing by a monomial, what I would like for you to do is I would like you to set it up as a fraction. So you have 2x to the 7th plus 32x to the 5th divided by 4x to the 3rd. Okay, so now what you're doing is you are dividing each term by that 4x to the 3rd. And this takes you back to the previous slide. So you have 28 divided by 4, which is going to give you 7. X to the 7th divided by x to the 3rd is going to be x to the 4th. Plus 32 divided by 4 is going to be 8. And x to the 5th divided by x to the 3rd is going to be x to the 2nd. Okay, so you don't have to expand this out if you don't want to. You can just do the division from here. Just understand you're dividing each term by that monomial. So let's try that in B. So I'm going to divide 2x to the 4th y to the 6th by 1 x squared y squared. Well, 2 divided by 1 is just 2. X to the 4th divided by x to the 2nd is x to the 2nd. Subtract those exponents. And then y to the 6th divided by y to the 2nd is going to be y to the 4th. You can only divide like bases, okay? Like variables, such as your x and your x and your y and your y. Now, negative 3x to the 3rd y to the 4th divided by x to the 2nd y to the 2nd is going to be negative 3x y squared. And then the last one is going to give us 5 x to the 2nd divided by x to the 2nd. That completely cancels out. And then y to the 3rd divided by y to the 2nd is going to give me y. So that's division by monomials. What if we divide by polynomials? Dividing by a binomial, for example. This says x squared plus x minus 6 divided by x plus 3. And this is just long division, kind of like how we did in 3rd grade. Remember, if you have something like 3 into 526. So you know that you're going to divide the first by 3. So 5 divided by 3 is going to go 1. 3 will go into 5 one time, multiply around. 1 times 3 is 3. And then we subtract and we get 2, and then we bring down the 2. Well, I want to introduce something here. Daddy, mother, sister, brother. That's the steps of long division. Daddy, mother, sister, brother. So the first thing we do is we divide 5 divided by 3. 3 will go into 5 one time. And then you multiply around. 1 times 3 is going to be 3. And then you subtract. 5 minus 3 is going to be 2. And then you bring down. And that's this acronym here, DMSB, Daddy, Mother, Sister, Brother. And then you start all over. So this time you're going to do 22 divided by 3, which would be 7 times. 7 times 3, multiply around will give you 21. Subtract and you get 1, and then bring down. And then one last time, 3 will go into 16 5 times. 5 times 3 is 15. Subtract and you get a remainder of 1. So we're going to take this that we learned how to do in 3rd grade, and we're going to apply it to algebra, which is something that we're doing now. So you still have the daddy, mother, sister, brother. So the first step is to divide. However, when you have a binomial dividing into another trinomial, you have to go piecewise. So for example, you're going to do the first term, x squared, divided by the first term of x. So basically what you're looking at is x squared divided by x. And you know that that's x. So we're dividing x into x squared, and we're going to put that up top, and that's going to be x, right? X squared divided by x is going to give you x. Then we're going to multiply. So we're going to take what we just put up top, which is the x, and we're going to multiply it times both the x plus 3. Multiply it times both the x plus 3. So this is a distributive property. Basically, x times x is going to give you x squared, and x times 3 is going to give you 3x. So now we're going to subtract, but we have to subtract both of these. We have to subtract both of these. Well, x squared minus x squared, that goes to 0. They're opposites. X squared minus x squared goes away. And then x minus 3x. Remember, we're subtracting. X minus 3x is going to give us a negative 2x, because there's a 1 here. And then b stands for bring down. So we'll bring down that negative 6. And we start the whole process over. And so now we're going to do division. We're going to divide first term by first term. So negative 2x divided by x is going to be negative 2. And we're going to put that up top. And it may be easier for you to see if you write it down. Negative 2x divided by x gives you negative 2. And like I said, it may be easier for you to bring that over here and work it out like that way. But anyway, that negative 2 goes on top. And so now what you're going to do is you're going to take what you just put on top, which was the negative 2, and you're going to multiply it times both of these. We're going to multiply around. So negative 2 times x is going to be negative 2x, and negative 2 times 3 is going to be a negative 6. And then we're going to subtract negative 2x minus negative 2x, that goes to 0. And negative 6 minus negative 6, that goes to 0 as well. So you don't have a remainder. So your answer is this quotient that we put up top, which is the x minus 2. Alright, so let's try again. Remember, daddy, mother, sister, brother. If you ever get lost in what you're doing, follow this acronym, daddy, mother, sister, brother. So we're going to divide. X squared divided by x is going to give you x, so that goes up top. Multiply around. X times x is going to be x squared, and x times negative 2 is negative 2x. And then we're going to subtract. X squared minus x squared, that goes to 0. 2x minus a negative 2x, that goes to plus. So 2x minus a negative 2x is going to be a plus 4x. And then bring down. So we have a negative 8. And then start all over. Divide 4x by x, which is going to give you a positive 4. And then multiply around. 4 times x is going to give you 4x. And 4 times negative 4 is going to give you a negative 8. And when you subtract, everything goes to 0. So your answer is x plus 4. Okay, let's keep going. This is hard, so there's plenty of examples here for you to go by. Alright, so again, daddy, mother, sister, brother. So we're going to divide x squared by x, which is going to give you x. Then multiply around. X times x is going to give you x squared, and x times 3 is going to give you 3x. Subtract. X squared minus x squared goes away. 7x minus 3x is going to give you 4x. And bring down plus 10. Go through it again. Divide 4x by x, which is going to give you 4. Multiply around. 4 times x is 4x, and 4 times 3 is going to give you 12. Subtract. 4x minus 4x goes away, but 10 minus 12 is going to give you a negative 2. And so this time you have a remainder. And so how do you write an answer that has a remainder? Because on the previous problem, if this was, for example, number 1 on your test, on your answer blank, all you would have to do would be put x plus 4, because you don't have a remainder. But what if this was number 2 on your test, and you came up with a remainder? What would you do? You would put x plus 4, you'd put down what's on top, and then you're going to do your remainder, so you'll have plus negative 2 over your divisor, which is x plus 3. Alright? So if you have a remainder, you're going to put what's on top, x plus 4, plus your remainder over your divisor. That's how you would write that answer. Okay, so a couple of things that we haven't talked about yet is this. What if your problem is set up like this? How do I make it into a division problem, the long division problem? Well, this says x to the third minus 1 divided by x minus 1. So this over here on the right is your divisor, and that's going to go on the outside. And then this here on the left is called your dividend, and that's going to go on the inside. So that's the first thing that we haven't talked about. We haven't talked about how to actually set these up in a long division problem. So your second polynomial is your divisor, it goes on the outside. Your first polynomial is your dividend, it goes on the inside. Now, the other thing that we haven't talked about is when you do division, you cannot skip exponents. And this is the only time that this happens. You have to have a placeholder for every single exponent. So for example, this problem starts with x to the third, and it goes all the way down to negative 1. Well, there's a couple of exponents that we're missing in between. We're missing the x squared, and we can replace that with 0x squared. And we're also missing just the linear x term, which is going to be 0x and then minus 1. So your exponents have to go down in descending order in division only. So you have 3, 2, 1, 0. You have to have a placeholder for every exponent. Okay, and then now you can start daddy, mother, sister, brother. So we're going to divide x to the third divided by x is going to be x squared, so that's going to go up top. And then multiply around, x squared times x is going to be x to the third. And x squared times negative 1 is going to be negative 1x squared. And you can write the 1 if you need to. Subtract, x to the third minus x to the third goes away. 0 minus a negative 1x squared. 0 minus a negative 1 is going to go to plus 1x squared. Double negatives go to plus. And then bring down the 0x. Okay, let's divide one more time. So we'll have x squared divided by x, which is x. Multiply the x around. X times x is going to be x squared, and x times negative 1 is going to be negative 1x. Subtract. X squared minus x squared goes away. 0 minus negative 1x is going to go to plus 1x, and bring down. And go one more time. So now x divided by x is going to be 1. Multiply around, 1 times x is x, and 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And when you subtract, everything goes away, and you don't have a remainder. And so your answer is going to be x squared plus x plus 1. Now, when do you know when to stop? You're going to stop when you bring the last number down. So remember, when you bring something down, you can only bring one term at a time down. Okay, so we brought down the 0x, but we left the negative 1 up here. You can only bring down one term at a time. And you know when to stop when you don't have any other terms to bring down. Okay, what if it's set up like a fraction? Well, remember, a fraction is division, and so this time the bottom number is going to be your divisor, so that's going to go out front. And then the top number is going to be your dividend, and that's going to go in underneath the division bar. And so we have 8x to the fourth, and we're missing the x to the third. So that's going to be 0x to the third plus 10x squared plus 2x plus 9. So make sure your exponents go down in order, and if one's missing, throw a 0 in there. Okay, so let's start. Daddy, mother, sister, brother. So we're going to divide 8x to the fourth divided by 4x. And again, it may be easier for you to write it down over here. 8x to the fourth divided by 4x is going to give us 2x to the third. Take 2x to the third, multiply it around. 2x to the third times 4x is going to give us 8x to the fourth. And 2x to the third times 2 is going to give us plus 4x to the third. Subtract. 8x to the fourth minus 8x to the fourth goes away. 0 minus 4x to the third is negative 4x to the third. And bring down. Okay, start over. So negative 4x to the third divided by 4x is going to give you negative x squared. Take the negative x squared, multiply it around. Negative x squared times 4x is going to be negative 4x to the third. And negative x squared times 2 is going to give you negative 2x squared. Subtract. Negative 4x to the third and positive 4x to the third, because double negatives go to plus, they go away. 10x squared minus a negative 2x squared is going to give you 12x squared. And then we're going to bring down the 2x. Keep going. So divide 12x squared by 4x, and that's going to give you 3x. Multiply that around. 3x times 4x is going to give you 12x squared. And then 3x times 2 is going to give you 6x. Subtract. These two go away. 2 minus 6 is going to give you negative 4x. And last number to bring down is that plus 9. Okay, divide one last time. Negative 4x divided by 4x is going to give you negative 1. Multiply that negative 1 around. Negative 1 times 4x is negative 4x. And negative 1 times 2 is going to be negative 2. Subtract. These are going to go away. 9 minus a negative 2 is going to go to 11. And so your answer is going to be 2x to the third minus x squared plus 3x minus 1 plus 11 over 4x plus 2. So that's going to be your answer. So again, this is long division. It is one of the hardest things that we will do in the semester, so it will take a lot of practice for you to get this process down. So here are your practice problems. Do the best you can. Bring them into class if you have any problems, and we will talk about this in class.